so we might as well talk about the flooring and so forth. What you see in here is the original flooring put back in the same order that it was originally. And the reason we're planning to use this is because it will be a historical part of the car showing the wear marks that were created by the motormen that stood in the corners. You can see how it looks like the waves of the ocean where they have worn down, and that you have that in the diagonal opposite corners. The big hole is where the wires come up to the controller, and you can almost see the outline of the controller where it's not worn, and then the pipes go up to the air brake valve, or the engineer's valve as it's called. There's going to be one problem with laying this out exactly as it was. Before we did anything, we looked down at the floor, and you could put your finger between almost every one of these, and the tongue, this is tongue and groove wood. The tongue is supposed to go into a groove here. Well, the wood had shrunk to the point that the tongues pulled out, so essentially the tongue did absolutely nothing. Now, the question is, do we pull this together so that it was tight like it was built, or do we lay these down as close as we can to where they were originally, and there'll still be lots of space? It certainly would be easier if we didn't have to try to get the tongues to mate up, because they're kind of beat up, and I don't think that they would go down very well. But anyway, we're going to keep as much as we can of this original historical wood here, and it will be protected inside, so it doesn't have to be necessarily waterproof. It's hard to tell if there was ever any paint on this or not. Now, this is over in a place where people would not walk, and there's no trace of paint on it right now. They might have used an oil of some kind on it, but you can't tell. Out here, under the hood, we're now outside of the actual cab, there's lots and lots of oil because the air compressor sat here and it leaked a lot of oil over many years. So these boards are saturated with oil, and as a result they're preserved so that they're almost like new. Getting back inside, looking at this end, there are a lot of things that have to go through the cab. This is a wire that goes down through that hole where the power comes from overhead, the trolley overhead, and goes down and eventually ends up in the controller right there. That's where the wires come through. Over here, all these pipes for the air brake have to make their way through, and it was impossible to get them to go back exactly as they were, so we may have to modify this area. At some point, they came up through these holes, and I don't remember, but I have pictures of it showing whether they actually came through the holes or whether they just used a notch to put them in, because coming through the holes again would be very, very difficult to do, so we may have to modify things a little bit. So I think that's it for this.